The retired American detective who couldn't forget one case. Full 10-minute story. Voiceover ready. John Miller was 67 years old when he realized that retirement had not truly freed him. He lived alone in a quiet American town where nothing much ever happened. The streets were clean, the neighbors polite, and the night silent. Every morning followed the same routine. John woke up early, made strong black coffee, and stepped onto the wooden porch of his old house. From there, he watched the world move slowly past him. To everyone else, he was just another retired man. To himself, he was still a detective. For 35 years, John Miller had served as a detective in the New York Police Department. He had seen things most people never would. Crime scenes, interrogation rooms, long nights filled with unanswered questions. He had solved many cases, some famous, some forgotten. But there was one case that never let him rest. It began in the fall of 1999. Brooklyn was loud back then, crowded streets, sirens in the distance, and lives moving too fast. One evening, a 23-year-old woman named Emily Carter disappeared on her way home from work. No struggle was reported, no witnesses came forward, just an empty street and a life that vanished without warning. John was assigned to the case. At first, he believed it would be solved quickly, but days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Evidence was thin. Witnesses were scared. Some refused to talk at all. Pressure from above began to grow. Eventually, the case was labeled as an unconfirmed disappearance. No arrests, no answers. John disagreed with that conclusion. Deep down, he knew something was wrong. But the department moved on. New cases arrived. Time passed. Years later, John retired. His badge was handed in, his gun locked away, his title erased by time. Then life hit him harder than any case ever had. His wife passed away after a long illness. The house grew quieter than he ever imagined possible. The silence was heavy, almost painful. Without work, without her, John felt lost. One rainy afternoon, while cleaning his basement, he found an old cardboard box pushed into a dark corner. It was sealed with tape and covered in dust. He knew what it was before opening it. Inside were old photographs, cassette tapes, and handwritten notes. Emily Carter's case. John sat on the basement steps, holding the box, feeling the weight of the past in his hands. Memories flooded back, late nights, unanswered questions. A young woman whose face he never forgot. That night, John couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m, he sat at his kitchen table, reading his old notes. And then he saw it. A detail he had overlooked years ago. A small inconsistency in a witness statement. It bothered him. The next day, John did something he hadn't done in years. He started investigating. Quietly, carefully, unofficially. He used public records, online archives, and old contacts. Some former colleagues refused to talk. Others quietly helped him. Technology had changed, but human behavior had not. Slowly, the pieces began to connect. One name kept appearing. A man who had been the key witness in 1999. Back then, the man claimed he saw nothing. Now, years later, his story didn't match the records. John tracked him down to a retirement community in another state. They met in a small park. The man was old now. His hands shook. His eyes avoided contact. At first, he denied everything. But John didn't push. He waited. Silence has a way of breaking people. After a long pause, the man spoke. He admitted he had lied. Not because he was guilty, but because he was afraid. He had seen something that night, something dangerous, and he chose safety over truth. That confession changed everything. John returned home with renewed energy. He spent weeks organizing evidence, comparing timelines, and rebuilding the case, step by step. His health wasn't what it used to be. His back hurt. His eyes tired easily. But his mind was sharper than ever. Finally, John made a decision. He contacted someone he trusted, an old student of his, now an FBI agent. He handed over everything. The notes, the evidence, the truth. Weeks later, the case was officially reopened. News outlets reported on it. A decades-old mystery revived. The real suspect was identified. Justice moved slowly, but it moved. John watched the news from his living room. His name was never mentioned. He preferred it that way. One evening, as the sun set, John sat on his porch once more, coffee in hand. The air was calm. His heart felt lighter. For the first time in many years, he felt at peace. Because he understood something important. A detective doesn't stop being a detective when he retires. He stops only when he stops caring. And John Miller never did. Asterisk, asterisk, story continuation. The case that came back. Asterisk, asterisk. John Miller believed the story had ended. The case was reopened. The truth was exposed. Justice, at least on paper, had finally arrived. But life rarely ends a chapter so cleanly. 3 weeks after the news broke, John received a letter. No return address. No signature. Just a short sentence written in shaky handwriting. You should have let the past stay buried. John stared at the words for a long time. He wasn't afraid, but he wasn't calm either. That night, sleep refused to come. At dawn, John drove to the old police precinct in Brooklyn, a place he hadn't entered in over a decade. The building looked smaller now. Older. Just like him. Inside, a young officer looked up, surprised. "Can I help you, sir?" John showed his retired badge. "I think someone doesn't want the truth out," he said quietly. That was enough. The FBI agent, his former student, took the letter seriously. They believed the reopened case had disturbed more than just memories. The real criminal had not acted alone. Someone else had helped bury the truth years ago. And that someone was still free. John was warned to stay away. He didn't listen. Instead, he returned to Emily Carter's file and noticed something new, something he had missed even this time. A financial record, a small transfer, almost invisible. It led to a name no one expected. A respected local businessman. A man who had donated to charities. A man the city trusted. John felt the familiar weight in his chest. This wasn't just a solved case anymore. It was bigger. Against advice, John met the man under the excuse of a casual conversation. Coffee, polite smiles, friendly words. But John watched his hands, his breathing, his silence. The man knew. 2 days later, John's house was broken into. Nothing was stolen. That was the message. For the first time, John felt the danger not like before, not as a young detective with backup, but as an old man standing alone. Still, he continued. He recorded everything. Conversations, notes, timelines. And then came the mistake. The businessman tried to clean his past too quickly. Money moved. Records changed. That was enough. The FBI stepped in. The arrest happened quietly. No cameras, no headlines. Only truth. Weeks later, John sat in a hospital room. His heart had given him a warning, a mild attack, the doctor said. Stress, they called it. As he lay there, staring at the ceiling, John finally asked himself the hardest question. Was it worth it? The answer came when Emily Carter's brother visited him. He stood awkwardly by the bed, holding a folded piece of paper. "Thank you," he said. "Now we can finally sleep." John nodded, unable to speak. That night, John made a decision. He would stop chasing criminals, but he wouldn't stop telling the truth. Months later, a book appeared quietly on bookstore shelves. No flashy cover. No big promotion. Just a title. Some Cases Never Retire. John Miller didn't become famous, but he became free. Final scene. John walks slowly along the beach at sunrise. His steps careful, his face calm. The past is still there, but it no longer owns him.